Дуже дякую, що завітали.
Good evening. I'm very pleased to be here. So the London Design Fair takes place during the London Design Festival. And the London Design Festival is our design week in London. It takes place once a year during September. And the London Design Fair is the largest destination during the London Design Festival. And is the largest collection of designers, brands, and yeah, it's confusing. Sorry. Very hard doing that. Okay. So it's the largest collection of international exhibitors, brands, designers, and country pavilions during the London Design Festival. The dates for 2020 are the 17th to the 20th of September. So our fair is located in East London in an old brewery building. We have 550 exhibitors from 40 countries, including independent designers, which is what we started with in 2007 when we first launched the fair. Then in sort of 2010, we added much more established brands, and we had an area called super brands. And then about 6 years ago, we added country pavilions. So the fair attracts about 29,000 visitors a year. A huge percentage of that audience are architects and interior designers, and they're there to find new product that they can specify in projects, both in the UK and internationally. The venue we have is 3 floors. It's about 12,000 square meters. The event's 4 days, and we have exhibitors from 40 countries. There's 550 exhibitors at the last event. We spend a lot of time promoting the brands that participate, because quite often they're launching with us for the first time. And each of them need very different audiences. So some of our exhibitors might be looking for retailers, for example, in the UK. Others are looking for to be specified in projects. So we spend a lot of time marketing our exhibitors. Some of these numbers are a little bit out of date. So we have 43,000 followers on Twitter, 88,000 followers on Instagram. We have 12,000 Facebook followers, and we have a huge subscriber base of 180,000 to our newsletters, and we send out one a week. And in those communications, we will feature various components of the show. So every country will receive a newsletter to announce its participation in the fair. And then once we know what brands are participating within each country pavilion, we'll then communicate that. So there's various stages of marketing for each country, and it kind of builds up to the show in September. The show's very well covered by the press because we spend so much time working on PR and marketing. So last year we had 314 pieces of press about the brands and the participants of the fair. I won't go through that bit, that's not necessary. We also have many, many media partners for the show. This is just a very small selection. We have about 60 media partners for the fair. And we use those to promote various aspects of the fair. So some of the publications will be more consumer-focused, some will be more trade-focused, and we also work with lots of international magazines, websites, blogs. We also invite many international bloggers to come and cover the fair. and we cover their costs to come. So we have 13 country pavilions, and this for me is by far and away the most interesting part of running the London Design Fair. It started because some countries were not present at the fair. We didn't have designers and companies coming from, say, Denmark. So the very practical way that we solved this was that we would go to the trade departments and the embassies for each country, and we would have a discussion with them about why there is no Danish presence at the London Design Fair. Very straightforward. In most instances, the countries really do want to participate. The trade departments and embassies don't know how to coordinate. So then what we do is we will either identify a national curator per country and introduce them to their own embassies and trade departments to explain that this person would understand which companies and designers and brands to present at the fair. One element of each of the country pavilions that we really work on is to have a good percentage of emerging designers. So it's kind of about 20% emerging companies or designers and studios and 80% established. We really feel it's very important to have that kind of range within each country. And when we work directly with the countries, we also try and make sure that the same brands aren't exposed every year. So we really do work on each country to make sure that we capture a moment of that year in each year that's different to the previous year. So these are just some quotes from the other country pavilion organizers. So Therese works for Form Design Center, which is kind of the design council for Sweden. Therese was our curator for Sweden. So I say curator, it's not really a curator in context of art, it's just more in context of capturing that moment for each country. So Therese was our curator for Sweden. Then this is really where the show all began. I studied interior design, and my wife studied product design. And in the year that we left design school, we really didn't want to kind of participate in the typical graduate fair. So we set up an exhibition which was more for our peer group. And we had about 150 designers back in 2007 when we launched. And from that, the show grew. And we started with graduates at the beginning, and then obviously everyone develops slowly or fast. And we ended up with lots of design studios based in London that wanted to be in our show. And the core part of the fair has always been about independent designers and brands and studios. Okay. So last year we added an addition to the London Design Fair, which is more for sort of high-end collectible design. This is becoming more and more an area of interest for interior designers who are looking for that totally unique piece with which to complete an interior project. It's very easy to specify regular contract furniture for interiors, but then everyone in London is being presented with the same contract product. So we worked with a design company in Denmark called Adorno, and Adorno specialize in representing one-off collectible design. Last year was the first time we presented their show at the London Design Fair, and it was incredibly successful. So this is something we're going to develop within the context of the London Design Week is to have a collectible design show. So we had 200 brands this year, but that includes brands that are part of country pavilions. I'm sorry, there's a lot of numbers, but it kind of puts it in context. So this is one of our media partners from last year, which is Design Milk. It's probably the most famous US-based blog. They have about 2.8 million Instagram followers. And I know Jamie really well. So I met her in New York in May last year, and they've launched a e-commerce platform as part of Design Milk. It's Design Milk Daily. And now they're beginning to retail. The people that used to love Design Milk, that were designers, are now retailing through Design Milk exclusively online. So when I met Jamie in New York last year, I asked why not do an exhibition in London in 2019 for Design Milk. So we hosted the first Design Milk exhibition in London in 2019. They brought 20 designers from, actually it ended up being from all over the world, but about 50% of them were from North America. And we're seeing a lot more of this happening where once exclusively online brands are approaching us to present because the designers and the brand wants to have a physical touch point where the designers can meet people and not just a subscriber. So we had 20 designers and companies that were part of the first Design Milk exhibition in Europe with us in September. So yes, back to our visitors, very important. We had 29,000 visitors. As I said, most of them are architects, interior designers, retail buyers, some manufacturers who are looking to the independent designers that are launching. They often launch with a prototype, or perhaps they don't have manufacturer sorted yet. And the manufacturers come looking for new designers to work with. So this is just some of our breakdown again. The show has grown a lot. So until 2016, the London Design Fair was actually a show called Tent London. And the more established brands were in an area called Super Brands London. But in 2017, we put an umbrella over, which was the London Design Fair, because it was the biggest fair in London. This is just a little selection of some of the architects' practices that attend the London Design Fair. And it's kind of a who's who of architects based in London. The list is much longer, but these are just some of the ones that you might recognize. Then we have a real mix of retailers that also attend, because some of the more independent studios are actually looking for retailers. And sometimes a country pavilion will focus their attention on one market per year. So they might decide that this year we're only going to bring brands that are looking for projects in London. Or the next year they might decide, which Sweden did this year, to only bring brands that are looking for UK retail. So that's why the retailers are quite important. And then, of course, the interior designers. This is our venue. It's a little bit similar to this, actually. It's just a lot bigger. So it's in East London, which is the center of London. Over the last sort of 15 years has kind of moved from the center towards the east side of London. And it's also where most of the sort of new build property development is happening. So over the sort of 14 years that we've been running the fair, the center of London has kind of moved towards us. We originally went here because it's the only building we could afford. Then we also collaborate with lots of international design weeks. We don't see other design weeks or shows as competitors at all. London's its own market, New York's its own market, Tokyo's its own market. So we do lots of collaborations, especially with the countries for whom we host a country pavilion. We try and use their pavilion as a sort of advert for their city or their country's design week. And it makes sense. You know, how many people know when Eindhoven Design Week is happening? They roughly know it's in October, but they don't know quite when. So we collaborate with many of these design weeks. We also have a fairly strong craft element to a lot of the products that are exhibited in the fair. So we also partner with London Craft Week. And we also work with lots of craft and artisan organizations from all over the world. There you go. So these are some of our partners. So we work with Dezeen a lot. I know Marcus very well. We kind of I launched my show and he launched Dezeen roughly in the same year. He was a little bit more successful, I think. But these are some of the other associations. The second one is New London Architecture. That's a hotel where we host some of our talks and events. Then we support and promote Dezeen Awards, which had nearly 4,000 entries last year. New Designers is the old graduate exhibition, so we support that exhibition and we host the winner of the Designer of the Year from the New Designers exhibition. There are 4,000 graduates in 2 weeks in London, and there's one winner. And then we host the winner from each week, actually. And then there's D&AD, which is sort of our advertising agency association in London. Adorno, which is our collectible design partner. And then we have Darkroom, which is a lighting publication in London. And we've now working with them. And last year they presented 85 lighting brands in a very small format. It was only sort of 6 square meters per lighting brand, but there were 85. And they only launched their sort of new collection. It's a new component to the show. Each year we try and add a couple of different components that we feel are relevant or are missing. Forget about this, that's embarrassing, why is that there? So that is a summary of the show.